In the pharmaceutical world, high-purity water isn't just an ingredient, it's literally the lifeblood of the entire operation. For decades, keeping that water absolutely pristine has meant one of two things: super high heat or some pretty harsh chemicals. But what if there's a better way? Today, we're going to dive into the shift to ozone, a powerful, clean alternative that's really changing the game.
And I want you to really think about that for a second. What's the true cost? It's not just the obvious stuff, right? Like that massive energy bill from constantly boiling water, or the budget line for all those sanitizing chemicals. The real cost is hidden. It's the lost productivity during hours and hours of system downtime. It's the constant wear and tear on your expensive equipment. And maybe most importantly, it's that nagging compliance risk of a sanitization failure or leaving behind chemical residues.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture, the water purity challenge itself. Then we'll get to know ozone as a modern sanitizer, put it head-to-head against the traditional methods, look at what it takes to make it work in a real facility, and wrap up with the full ozone advantage.
Okay, so first things first, maintaining pharmaceutical-grade water quality it's a relentless battle. We're talking about a critical raw material that has to meet the absolute strictest standards 24/7. And the biggest enemy in this fight isn't just some random bacteria floating around in the water. No, it's what's growing on the inside of the pipes.
And that brings us to your number one adversary, biofilm. Now, this isn't just a simple layer of slime. Think of it like a highly organized city of microbes that builds its own fortress, this protective gooey shell. That shell makes the critters inside incredibly resistant to most disinfection methods, letting them just hang out and continuously contaminate your entire water system. It's a huge problem.
So to fight that biofilm, facilities have always been stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one side, you've got heat sanitization. Sure, it works, but it burns through a massive amount of energy, it puts a ton of stress on your pipes and valves, and it means significant downtime while everything heats up and cools down. On the other side, there's chemical sanitization. You skip the heat, but now you've introduced a huge risk: chemical residues. That means you have to do these extensive water-heavy rinsing cycles and deal with environmental disposal. It's always been this classic trade-off between cost, time, and risk.
But what if you could just break free from that trade-off? What if you didn't have to choose? Well, that's exactly the promise of ozone. A powerful, clean, and just remarkably efficient alternative for any modern pharma facility. So what is this stuff? Simply put, ozone, or O3, is just an energized form of oxygen. That third oxygen atom makes the whole molecule super unstable and reactive. It basically can't wait to give that atom away, and when it does, it oxidizes or destroys any organic material it touches. We're talking bacteria, viruses, and yes, that tough biofilm shell. It's made right there on site, and when it's done its job, it just turns back into plain old oxygen.
And to put its power into perspective, get this: ozone's disinfecting strength is a staggering 3,000 times greater than chlorine. I mean, that's not just a little bit better, that is a completely different level of power. The kind of overwhelming force you need to rip through biofilm's fortress where other sanitizers just can't. Okay, so with that kind of firepower, how does it really stack up against the old guard? Let's put it to the test, head to head.
When you see them side by side, the advantages just jump right out. Look at energy consumption. Ozone runs at room temperature, so it's incredibly low compared to the very high demand from heat. System downtime is minimal because you're not waiting for a long heat up and cool down cycle. But honestly, for pharma, the real game changer is residue risk. With ozone, it's zero. It just reverts back to oxygen, leaving nothing behind. That's a massive win over chemicals, which need all this validation to prove they've been completely rinsed out.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, ISPE, recognizes these advantages. We're talking about real-world benefits here. Things like higher productivity because you have less downtime, way more reliable water quality, which means fewer costly investigations, and a much smaller carbon footprint. These aren't just small tweaks. This is a fundamental improvement in how a facility can run.
Now, of course, getting all these benefits isn't as simple as just flipping a switch. Ozone is powerful, for sure, but it's not magic. To really succeed, you need a system that's designed for it, with specific monitoring and a clear understanding of how it all works.
So, industry best practice calls for 3 critical monitoring points. First, you need a sensor right in the storage tank to make sure your ozone concentration is high enough to actually do the job. Second, and this one is absolutely critical, you need a sensor right after the UV destruct unit to prove without a doubt that all the ozone is gone before the water heads to its point of use.
And third, a sensor on the return loop confirms that a sanitizing level of ozone made it all the way around the system. No dead legs, no untreated spots.
And that second sensor, the post-destruct one, brings us to a huge regulatory question that anyone in pharma is going to ask. Is ozone considered an added substance according to the pharmacopoeia? It's a really critical point for compliance.
And the answer, thankfully, is a clear no. The reason is simple. Because it's completely destroyed by that UV system before the water is ever used, it leaves absolutely no residue. It just turns back into oxygen. That's why that second monitoring point is so essential. It gives you the documented proof you need that you are meeting the no added substances rule.
Now let's be real for a second. Ozone isn't a silver bullet. It does have some limitations. It's fantastic at preventing biofilm and sanitizing surfaces, but it can struggle with really thick, established biofilms that have been there forever. Your materials have to be compatible, of course, and it's a new technology for a lot of people, so it does require specific training. And here's an interesting fact. In the super pure water of a pharma system, ozone actually lasts longer, up to 80 minutes, because there's less stuff for it to react with. That's a key thing to consider in your system design.
So when you weigh all those immense benefits against these pretty manageable considerations, it's obvious we're looking at a true paradigm shift in how we manage pharmaceutical water.
And this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea for the future. As the industry literature confirms, ozone is already a viable, accepted, and credible option. It's recognized as one of the single most effective tools we have against biofilm, and it's perfectly positioned to meet the critical water needs of facilities right now.
At the end of the day, here's the crucial takeaway. Adopting ozone is more than just a technical upgrade. It is a strategic decision. It's a move towards a facility that's more efficient because of less downtime, more cost-effective because of lower energy bills, and way more sustainable. It is the perfect sanitization partner for the modern ambient temperature water systems that are fast becoming the industry standard.
So I'll leave you with one final question. As the demands for more efficiency, tighter compliance, and real sustainability just keep growing, you have to ask yourself, is your facility ready for the future of water management?